Hey there, welcome to this special video. Today I'm going to reveal something that many people are experiencing but few can identify: the symptoms of burial spells and how to break them using the ancient mysteries of Saint Cyprian. What exactly is a burial spell? This is one of the most powerful forms of black magic that exists in our spiritual world. According to Saint Cyprian's tradition, a burial spell happens when someone takes your personal energy through a photo, clothing item, or personal object, and symbolically buries it, causing your life force to be trapped and diminished. These spells can range from basic to extremely complex. The most basic might involve taking your photograph and placing it in a cemetery or crossroads. More complex versions involve creating dolls that represent you, consecrating them with specific incantations from the Black Book of Saint Cyprian, and burying them in places of negative energy, graveyards, accident sites, or abandoned houses. According to the Cyprian grimoires, these burial spells are particularly dangerous because they operate on multiple spiritual planes simultaneously. They not only affect your material reality, but also your astral body and spiritual connection. Think of it as having anchors weighing down your soul from different dimensions. Let me tell you something that might shock you. According to ancient Cyprianic wisdom, nearly 40% of unexplained life problems can be traced back to some form of spiritual attack, with burial spells being among the most common. You might be wondering why someone would do this to you. Jealousy, revenge, competition, or simply the desire to see you fail are the most common motivations. What makes these spells particularly effective is the use of your personal items. The Cyprianic tradition explains that everything you touch, wear, or use carries your spiritual signature, your energy imprint. When someone obtains something with your energy, they can manipulate it to affect you directly. This is why our ancestors were so careful about their hair, nail clippings, and personal belongings. In today's digital world, your energy can even be captured through photos shared on social media. The Black Book of Saint Cyprian never anticipated Instagram or Facebook, but the principles remain the same. Your image carries your essence, and in the wrong hands, it can be used against you. But here's what's truly frightening. Many people suffer the effects of burial spells without ever realizing what's happening. They blame bad luck, depression, or coincidence for their suffering. They seek help from doctors, therapists, and friends without finding relief because the root cause is spiritual, not physical or psychological. The good news? Saint Cyprian, who was once a powerful sorcerer before converting to Christianity, documented both the methods of creating these spells and the secrets to breaking them. His wisdom has been preserved in various grimoires and magical texts that have survived centuries of persecution and attempts to destroy this knowledge. Today, I'm going to share with you the 8 key symptoms that indicate you might be affected by a burial spell, and then reveal the complete Cyprianic ritual to break these spells permanently. This information comes directly from the ancient Cyprianic tradition, passed down through generations of spiritual practitioners. By the end of this video, you'll not only be able to identify if you're under attack, but you'll also have powerful tools to protect yourself and break any existing spiritual bonds. I'll also share a special prayer that Saint Cyprian himself used to ward off negative energies, so make sure you stay until the very end. Are you ready to discover the hidden forces that might be working against you and learn how to defeat them? Let's dive into the protective measures Saint Cyprian taught for preventing these attacks in the first place. Before we get into identifying existing burial spells, let's talk about prevention. Saint Cyprian's tradition offers powerful protective measures that can shield you from these attacks before they even begin. The first and most important protection comes through prayer. The Cyprianic tradition includes specific prayers that create a spiritual shield around your energy field. One of the most powerful is what's called the Prayer of the 7 Crosses. This prayer must be recited while holding a black candle on Tuesdays or Fridays. preferably at midnight. By the power of Saint Cyprian, who knew both darkness and light, I seal my energy against all who wish me harm. 7 crosses protect me, 7 angels guard me, 7 lights illuminate my path. No burial shall claim me, no earth shall cover my essence, no darkness shall consume my light. For protecting digital photographs, the Cyprianic tradition has been adapted for modern times. Before posting any photo online, visualize a circle of white light around it and mentally state, "This image carries my likeness, but not my essence." It is sealed and protected by Saint Cyprian's power. This simple ritual creates a spiritual firewall that prevents others from using your digital images in harmful ways. Another critical protection concerns food and drink. The Book of Saint Cyprian warns that many burial spells begin when you consume something that has been ritually prepared to capture your energy. Before eating or drinking anything given to you by someone you don't completely trust, discreetly make the sign of the cross over it while mentally reciting, "Saint Cyprian reveals all poisons, spiritual and physical. What is harmful becomes harmless." This neutralizes any spiritual contamination. The cross of Saint Cyprian is perhaps the most powerful physical protection against burial spells. This is not the standard Christian cross, but a specific amulet described in his grimoire. It consists of a cross with 3 horizontal bars instead of 1, inscribed with the letters INRI at the top and NRNI at the bottom. Carrying this symbol, whether as jewelry or a small paper in your wallet, prevents others from stealing your personal items for magical purposes. Now, here's something many people don't realize. The threshold of your home is your first line of defense. According to Cyprianic wisdom, placing a small amount of sea salt mixed with rosemary at the 4 corners of your property creates a boundary that negative energies cannot cross. This must be renewed every new moon for maximum effectiveness. For those who feel particularly vulnerable, Saint Cyprian recommends the bath of the 7 herbs. This protective bath includes rosemary, rue, basil, lavender, bay leaf, sage, and hyssop. Boil these herbs together, strain the liquid, and add it to your bath water while reciting 7 Our Fathers. This ritual closes your spiritual pores that might otherwise absorb negative energies. Now that you understand these preventive measures, you might be wondering, but what if it's too late? What if a burial spell has already been cast against me? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. The 3 main types of burial spells according to the Cyprianic tradition, and how each one manifests in your life. According to Saint Cyprian's ancient wisdom, burial spells fall into 3 major categories, each with its own purpose, methods, and consequences. Understanding these distinctions is crucial for identifying and breaking the specific type of spell that might be affecting you. The first category is what Saint Cyprian called the separation burial. This type of spell is specifically designed to destroy relationships, particularly romantic ones. In the Cyprianic tradition, this ritual involves creating 2 dolls representing the couple, consecrating them with the energy of the targets, and then burying them in separate cemeteries. Often, these dolls are buried at crossroads or near graves of people who died alone or in tragic circumstances. What makes this burial particularly effective is the ritual of the 7 inverted crosses. The practitioner plants 7 crosses upside down, forming a circle around each burial site, while reciting specific verses from St. Cyprian's Black Book that call upon spirits of discord and misunderstanding. These entities then attach themselves to the relationship, creating arguments from nothing, misunderstandings from simple comments, and turning love into indifference or even hatred. The most dangerous aspect of separation burials is their subtlety. The couple rarely suspects an external influence because the problems seem to arise naturally. You might think we just grew apart or we changed, when in reality, your relationship has been systematically undermined by spiritual forces. The second category is what Cyprianic texts call the prosperity burial, aimed at blocking your financial and professional paths. This ritual utilizes earth from 7 different cemeteries, combined with the target's name written on parchment or a photograph sealed inside a black box. According to the Cyprianic grimoire, this box is then buried at a crossroads, in a cemetery, or in modern adaptations, near banks or businesses. This burial works by creating what St. Cyprian called the shadow of failure around your endeavors. Job interviews inexplicably fall through. Business deals collapse at the last minute. Promising opportunities vanish without explanation. Money seems to slip through your fingers, and no matter how hard you work, success remains elusive. What's particularly insidious about this type of burial is that it operates through legitimate channels. You won't see demons or obvious supernatural events. Instead, you'll hear phrases like, "We went with another candidate," or "We've decided to go in a different direction." The spiritual interference appears entirely natural and logical. The third and most dangerous category is the mortal burial, which St. Cyprian described as the highest form of black magic. This ritual is designed not just to harm, but to gradually extinguish the victim's life force. In the most extreme form, it aims to cause death, though more commonly it creates a living death, where the victim exists but doesn't truly live. According to the Black Book of St. Cyprian, this burial involves creating a complete representation of the target, not just a doll, but one that contains hair, nail clippings, blood, or other bodily substances. This effigy is then subjected to a 9-day ritual involving black candles, specific invocations, and finally, burial in a fresh grave alongside a recently deceased person. The spiritual mechanics are terrifying. The spell creates a sympathetic link between the target and the dead, gradually pulling the victim's energy into the realm of death. The person doesn't die immediately, but enters a state of perpetual decline, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Signs of this most severe burial include rapid weight loss, chronic exhaustion that no amount of rest can cure, increasingly serious health problems that doctors struggle to diagnose, and a distinctive spiritual symptom that St. Cyprian called the grey aura, a visible dimming of the person's life energy that sensitive individuals can perceive. Now, you might be thinking, these sound terrifying. How do I know which one might be affecting me? That's exactly what we'll explore next. St. Cyprian identified 8 specific symptoms that indicate not only the presence of a burial spell, but also its type and severity. Remember, knowledge is power. By understanding these categories, you're already taking the first step toward breaking these spiritual bonds. In the next section, we'll dive into the first and most common symptom, the blockage of paths, how to recognize it, and what it reveals about the spell affecting you. The first and most common symptom of a burial spell is what St. Cyprian called the blockage of paths. This is often the earliest sign that your energy has been buried and is struggling to flow naturally through your life. What exactly does a blocked path feel like? According to Cyprianic wisdom, it manifests as a series of inexplicable obstacles in areas of life that previously flowed with ease. Imagine waking up one day to find that doors that were once open to you are now closed. People who used to welcome you now avoid you. Opportunities that once appeared regularly now seem non-existent. The Book of St. Cyprian describes this symptom as walking through life wearing chains that only the spirit can see. You feel constantly weighted down, as though moving through molasses. Every effort requires twice the energy for half the result. This isn't just bad luck or a rough patch. It's a systematic spiritual blockage designed to prevent your progress. One of the most telling signs is what Cyprianic tradition calls the rule of 3. When you encounter 3 similar blockages in rapid succession, 3 job rejections, 3 relationship failures, 3 financial losses, this pattern reveals the fingerprint of spiritual interference. Natural bad luck doesn't typically follow such precise patterns. St. Cyprian particularly noted what he called the black veil effect. This occurs when people suddenly can't see you properly. They forget to include you in important events. Your emails go unanswered. Your phone calls aren't returned. It's as if you've become slightly invisible in the social fabric, present but overlooked. In professional settings, this symptom manifests as projects being reassigned without explanation, credit for your work going to others, or being passed over for opportunities despite obvious qualifications. You might hear phrases like, "I don't know why, it just didn't feel right," when people explain their decisions to exclude you. Here's what makes this symptom particularly distinctive. The blockages often defy logical explanation. You might find yourself saying, "This makes no sense," or "Why would they do that?" Because the obstacles seem arbitrary or even self-defeating for the other parties involved. That's because they're not making decisions based on rational self-interest, but rather under the influence of spiritual interference. If you're experiencing these blockages, pay attention to when they began. Cyprianic wisdom teaches that burial spells often start affecting you within 7 to 30 days after the ritual is performed. Try to recall any significant conflicts, jealousies, or competitions that occurred shortly before your paths began to close. Now let's move to the second symptom, which takes us from the waking world into the realm of sleep, where our spiritual defenses are most vulnerable and burial spells often reveal themselves through our dreams. The second major symptom of a burial spell appears in your dreamscape. Saint Cyprian considered dreams to be messages from the spiritual realm, where the truth of magical attacks often reveals itself before manifesting in the physical world. When your energy is buried, your subconscious mind receives distress signals from your spiritual body. These signals translate into specific dream patterns that the Cyprianic tradition identifies as revelatory dreams. They aren't subtle or ambiguous. They're direct communications about the spiritual warfare being waged against you. The most common burial dream involves earth, dirt, or being underground. You might dream of falling into a hole, being covered with soil, or trying to dig yourself out of a grave. Some people report dreams where they're walking through a cemetery and suddenly feel unable to leave, as if drawn to a particular grave or area. St. Cyprian's texts describe another telling dream pattern: water turning to mud. This symbolizes the transformation of your life force, represented by clear water, into something stagnant and suffocating. You might dream of swimming in water that gradually becomes thicker until you can barely move through it. Perhaps the most disturbing dream sign is what Cyprianic tradition calls the visitation. In these dreams, you encounter deceased individuals you've never met, or shadowy figures who watch you from a distance. Sometimes they speak, saying things like, "You belong with us now," or "You're coming to us soon." These are spiritual entities connected to the burial spell, drawn to your energy through the magical connection. According to the Black Book of St. Cyprian, dreams of losing teeth or hair in unusually large quantities can also indicate a burial spell targeting your vitality. These dreams represent the gradual diminishment of your life force being pulled into the earth. What makes these dreams particularly significant is their repetitive nature and emotional impact. They occur frequently, often several times a week, and leave you feeling drained rather than rested upon waking. You might find yourself saying, "It was just a dream," but it felt so real, or waking up with physical sensations like pressure on your chest or dirt in your mouth. It's important to keep a dream journal if you suspect you're under attack. The Cyprianic tradition teaches that the specifics of these dreams, locations, figures, objects, can reveal who cast the spell and where your energy has been buried. These details become crucial for the counter-ritual we'll discuss later. As your dream world reveals these spiritual attacks, the third symptom begins to manifest in your physical reality through a pattern of accidents that are anything but random. Let's explore how these seemingly coincidental events form a deliberate pattern of spiritual assault. The third symptom of a burial spell materializes through what appears to be bad luck, but is actually a coordinated spiritual attack on your physical well-being. Saint Cyprian called this the mark of the buried one, a state where your physical body begins reflecting the buried state of your spiritual energy. These accidents follow distinctive patterns that separate them from normal mishaps. First, they occur with unusual frequency. It's not just one car problem or one fall, it's a series of incidents that defy probability. Your car might break down 3 times in a month. You might trip and fall repeatedly in your own home, a space you've navigated safely for years. Second, these accidents often involve downward motion, stumbling, falling, dropping things, symbolically mirroring the downward pull of your buried energy. The Cyprianic tradition notes that victims often report feeling a momentary sensation of being pushed or pulled before these incidents occur. Third, there's often damage to your means of transportation. According to St. Cyprian's texts, this represents spiritual interference with your life path. Flat tires, engine failures, public transit delays that affect only you. These obstacles keep you from moving forward literally and metaphorically. Perhaps most tellingly, these accidents often occur at threshold moments, when you're about to achieve something significant or make an important change. You might experience a minor car accident on your way to a job interview, fall ill the day before an important presentation, or suffer a household disaster just as you're preparing to host an important gathering. The Book of St. Cyprian describes a particularly significant sign: accidents involving glass or mirrors. These materials are considered boundaries between worlds in the Cyprianic tradition. When they break in your presence without clear cause, it indicates that the boundary between your world and the spiritual realm where your energy is trapped has become dangerously thin. Many victims report a strange sensation immediately preceding these accidents, a momentary disorientation, dizziness, or feeling of being not quite in my body. This is what St. Cyprian described as the split moment, when your physical form briefly experiences the dissonance created by having part of your energy buried elsewhere. If you're experiencing this symptom, start documenting these incidents with dates and circumstances. The Cyprianic tradition teaches that these accidents often increase in frequency and severity around specific lunar phases or anniversaries of when the spell was cast, providing clues about the ritual used against you. As these physical manifestations accumulate, the burial spell pushes deeper into your subconscious, creating not just dreams, but intense nocturnal experiences that blur the boundary between sleep and wakefulness. Let's examine these night presages, the fourth symptom of a spiritual burial. The fourth symptom occurs in that vulnerable state between sleeping and waking, when our spiritual defenses are at their weakest. St. Cyprian's tradition identifies 7 specific night presages that indicate your energy has been buried through magical means. The first and most common is sleep paralysis, with a distinctive burial theme. Unlike ordinary sleep paralysis, victims report sensing a presence that is explicitly associated with death, burial, or the grave. You might feel soil being sprinkled over your body or experience the sensation of being confined in a coffin-like space, unable to move or cry out. The second presage involves waking exactly at 3:20 a.m. repeatedly. According to Cyprianic texts, this specific time, not the more commonly known 3 a.m., represents the moment when the boundary between the living and the dead is thinnest. This precise waking indicates that your spirit is being called to the burial site where your energy is trapped. Third, St. Cyprian described a phenomenon called the cold spot. Victims report waking to find a specific area of their bed or room unnaturally cold, often at the foot of the bed or directly over the chest. This cold doesn't dissipate with movement or additional blankets, and is often accompanied by the scent of damp earth or decaying flowers. The fourth presage is recurring dreams of specific locations that you've never visited in waking life. The Black Book notes that these locations often represent where your energy has actually been buried. Pay particular attention to dreams of crossroads, cemeteries, abandoned buildings. or sites where violent deaths occurred. Fifth, you might experience what Cyprianic tradition calls the whisper exchange, hearing your name called just as you're falling asleep, often followed by unintelligible whispers that seem to respond to each other. This represents spiritual entities discussing your trapped energy. The sixth and seventh presages are physical, waking with unexplained bruises in patterns of finger marks or small circles, and finding your sleeping position change dramatically without any memory of moving. St. Cyprian noted that victims often wake in positions that mimic burial postures, arms crossed over the chest or body stiffly extended. These night experiences create a state of constant exhaustion, making you vulnerable to the fifth symptom, unexpected relationship breakdowns that occur without logical cause or explanation. Let's examine how burial spells target your closest bonds. The fifth symptom specifically targets your intimate relationships, creating ruptures that seem to emerge from nowhere. Saint Cyprian identified this as one of the most painful consequences of burial spells, the sudden dissolution of love and connection without apparent cause. What distinguishes these separations from normal relationship problems is their abrupt and inexplicable nature. One day everything seems fine. The next, your partner is distant, cold, or hostile. The change occurs without preceding arguments or growing tensions. It's as if a switch has been flipped in their perception of you. The Cyprianic tradition describes a telltale sign called the stranger's gaze. Your loved one looks at you with eyes that seem not to recognize the person they once cherished. They might say things like, "I don't know why, but I just don't feel the same anymore," or "something feels wrong when we're together." This happens because the burial spell creates a distortion field around your energy that affects how others perceive you emotionally. Another distinctive marker is the rewriting of relationship history. Your partner suddenly remembers past events differently, focusing exclusively on negative moments while forgetting positive experiences you shared. According to St. Cyprian's texts, this selective amnesia is a spiritual interference with memory, not a natural psychological process. Perhaps most painfully, affection turns to aversion. Physical touch that once brought comfort now creates discomfort. Conversations that once flowed easily become strained. The Cyprianic tradition explains that this happens because the burial spell contaminates the energetic exchange between you and your loved one, turning warmth to coldness. St. Cyprian documented cases where these separations followed a specific timeline, often completing within 21 days from first symptom to final rupture. This 3-week cycle corresponds to the waning moon phase, often used in burial rituals targeting relationships. The good news is that relationships affected by burial spells can be restored once the spell is broken. The Book of St. Cyprian includes accounts of couples who, after appropriate spiritual countermeasures, reported that the fog lifted suddenly, often describing the experience as waking up or coming out of a trance. As your personal relationships suffer, the burial spell often escalates to the 6th symptom, direct manifestations from the invisible world that can no longer be dismissed as coincidence or imagination. Let's explore these unsettling encounters. The 6th symptom represents a dangerous escalation in the burial spell's effects, and your energy remains trapped. The boundary between your world and the spiritual realm begins to deteriorate, allowing direct manifestations that St. Cyprian called breaches of the veil. These manifestations typically begin subtly, objects moved from where you left them, doors that open or close by themselves, lights that flicker without electrical issues. Many dismiss these occurrences as forgetfulness or coincidence. However, the Cyprianic tradition warns that these are the early signs of entities connected to your buried energy gaining access to your physical space. As the spell progresses, the manifestations become more difficult to rationalize. You might notice shadows moving against the natural flow of light or appearing in peripheral vision. These aren't ordinary shadows. They often have distinctive shapes that the Cyprianic tradition identifies as grave entities, spirits associated with burial grounds and death. One of the most disturbing manifestations involves sound. According to St. Cyprian's texts, victims often report hearing their name whispered from empty rooms or corners. These whispers typically occur in threes, a pattern that mockingly mimics sacred trinities while actually representing the three worlds connected by the burial spell: the living world, the dead world, and the liminal space between. The olfactory manifestations are particularly significant in the Cyprianic tradition. Sudden smells of damp earth, decaying flowers, or extinguished candles, especially in clean, dry spaces, indicate that grave energy has entered your environment. These smells often come and go quickly, lasting just long enough to register before disappearing. More dangerous are the physical sensations, feeling touched when no one is present, experiencing sudden cold spots that move through rooms, or the sensation of something sitting on your chest or bed. The Book of St. Cyprian warns that these direct physical interactions indicate the burial spell has reached an advanced stage, with entities now able to affect not just your energy, but your physical form. Technology disruption forms another category of manifestation. Phones that malfunction only in your hands, computers that crash when you use them, or batteries that drain inexplicably fast in your devices. The Cyprianic tradition, though ancient, recognized that spirits can interfere with energy systems of all kinds, including modern electronics. Perhaps most disturbing is what St. Cyprian called the mirror moment, catching glimpses of something behind you in reflective surfaces, only to turn and find nothing there. According to Cyprianic demonology, mirrors are thresholds between worlds, and these glimpses represent entities trying to fully materialize in your reality. If you're experiencing these manifestations, the spell has gained significant power. However, the next symptom may be even more distressing, as it affects the innocent beings in your life who cannot protect themselves, your pets and plants. Let's examine how burial spells impact these vulnerable living things. The seventh symptom affects the innocent beings in your household, particularly pets and plants, who often suffer first and most visibly from burial spells. St. Cyprian called this the sacrifice of the innocents, noting that these beings, pure in spirit, act as unwitting shields, absorbing negative energy that would otherwise directly impact you. In the Cyprianic tradition, animals are considered spiritually sensitive, able to perceive energies and entities that humans cannot. When your energy is buried, your pets may exhibit strange behaviors before showing physical symptoms. Dogs might bark at empty corners or refuse to enter certain rooms. Cats often stare fixedly at seemingly empty spaces or become unusually aggressive or fearful. As the spell progresses, pets frequently develop unexplainable health issues. The Book of St. Cyprian specifically notes symptoms like sudden weight loss, unusual lethargy, or digestive problems that veterinarians struggle to diagnose or treat effectively. In severe cases, pets may die suddenly without clear medical cause. Plants, too, serve as indicators of buried energy. According to Cyprianic wisdom, plants connected to your energy field, those you've planted, watered, or regularly cared for, will show signs of distress when you're under a burial spell. Leaves may blacken from the edges inward, not the typical yellowing of natural decline. Flowers might wilt overnight despite proper care, or plants could die in specific patterns, often circular or cross-shaped arrangements. What makes this symptom particularly significant is the selective nature of the decline. Not all plants or animals in the household will be affected, only those with the strongest energetic connection to you. For instance, a pet that sleeps in your room might become ill while others remain healthy, or plants in your personal space might die while those in common areas thrive. St. Cyprian's texts advise that witnessing this symptom should prompt immediate action. as it indicates the spell is progressing from affecting your circumstances to directly threatening life forces connected to you, with you as the ultimate target. This leads us to the eighth and final symptom, where your physical body begins manifesting the effects of your buried energy. The eighth symptom represents the burial spell's direct assault on your physical body and psychological well-being. Saint Cyprian called this the mirroring of the grave, as your physical form begins to reflect the state of your buried energy. The most common physical manifestation starts with the head, persistent headaches that don't respond to normal medication, often accompanied by pressure at the crown of the head or base of the skull. The Cyprianic tradition explains that these areas are your primary spiritual connection points, where your life force enters and anchors to your physical body. When your energy is buried, these connections become strained, manifesting as physical pain. Eye symptoms are particularly significant in burial spells. St. Cyprian noted that victims often experience blurred vision, floaters that have distinctive shapes, often resembling insects, worms or small dark figures, or seeing flashes of light in peripheral vision. These visual disturbances represent the spiritual world becoming increasingly visible as your energy is pulled between realms. The digestive system typically suffers next. Inexplicable nausea, loss of appetite, or digestive issues that doctors cannot diagnose. According to the Book of Saint Cyprian, this represents your body rejecting nourishment as your buried energy separates from your physical form. Weight loss follows, often rapid and dramatic despite no changes in diet or lifestyle. Bone pain, particularly in the spine, hips and legs, represents what Cyprianic tradition calls the pull of the earth. These aches, which often worsen at night or during rainy weather, symbolize the downward force exerted by your buried energy, literally trying to pull your physical body toward the ground. Psychologically, victims experience what St. Cyprian described as the grave mind, a distinctive form of depression characterized not by sadness, but by emptiness. You might feel disconnected from emotions, unable to feel pleasure or pain with normal intensity. This emotional numbness differs from clinical depression in its sudden onset and its association with a sense of being partially elsewhere. Sleep becomes increasingly disturbed, beyond the presages mentioned earlier. St. Cyprian documented a pattern of waking between 3 cis and 3:33 a.m., feeling suddenly alert as if called awake by something. Many report a sensation of their spirit returning to their body with a jolt, as if it had been traveling elsewhere while they slept. If you're experiencing these physical and psychological symptoms alongside the previous 7 signs, the burial spell has reached a critical stage, requiring immediate intervention. Now let's turn to the complete Cyprianic ritual for breaking these spells and reclaiming your buried energy. Now I'll share with you the complete Saint Cyprian ritual for breaking burial spells. This powerful counter-ritual comes directly from the Cyprianic tradition and has been used for centuries to release trapped energy and break the bonds of magical burials. The ritual must begin on a Tuesday, the day sacred to St. Cyprian, and should be performed during the waxing moon phase when energies are naturally rising. You'll need the following materials: 7 white candles, a black candle, sea salt, holy water, or water blessed by your own prayers, rosemary rue, a small mirror, a new white cloth, and an image of St. Cyprian if available. First, create a sacred space by cleaning your home thoroughly. The Cyprianic tradition emphasizes physical cleanliness as the foundation for spiritual work. Once your space is prepared, create an altar by covering a small table with the white cloth. Place the mirror in the center of this altar, facing upward to reflect the ceiling. Arrange the 7 white candles in a circle around the mirror, leaving an opening on the eastern side. The black candle should be placed outside this circle, directly to the west. This arrangement creates what St. Cyprian called the circle of return, a pathway for your buried energy to find its way back to you. Begin the ritual at sunset by lighting the black candle first, while saying, "I light this candle to illuminate the darkness where my energy has been trapped." Saint Cyprian, you who knew both shadow and light, guide this flame to find what has been taken from me. Next, light each white candle in a clockwise direction, starting from the northmost candle, saying with each, "By this light I reclaim my power. What is buried shall rise. What is bound shall be free." Once all candles are lit, sprinkle sea salt in a circle around your altar while walking counterclockwise, saying, "With this salt I create a boundary that no negative energy may cross. My space is sealed, my spirit protected." Now comes the central part of the ritual. Stand before your altar and gaze into the mirror while holding sprigs of rosemary and rue in your dominant hand. According to the Cyprianic tradition, these herbs have the power to cut spiritual bonds and reveal hidden magic. Speak these words from the book of Saint Cyprian. "Through this mirror, I see beyond veils. I call back my energy from earth, from stone, from water, from air. Whatever has been buried, I unearth. Whatever has been bound, I release. Whatever has been cursed, I bless." By the power of Saint Cyprian, converter of sorcerers and protector against magic, I reclaim what is mine. Sprinkle a few drops of holy water onto the mirror while saying, "As this water reflects light, let truth be reflected. As this water flows freely, let my energy flow back to me." The most powerful element of the ritual is the Cyprianic crossbody sealing. Using your dominant index finger, trace a cross on your forehead, saying, "My mind is clear," then on your throat, saying, "My voice is strong," then on your heart, saying, "My spirit is whole," and finally on your solar plexus, saying, "My energy is mine alone." Leave the candles burning until they extinguish naturally. The ritual must be repeated for 7 consecutive days, always at sunset. According to Saint Cyprian's teachings, by the 7th day, you should begin feeling a noticeable shift as your energy returns. For protection against future attacks, especially when attending funerals or visiting cemeteries, let me share with you the final consecration that completes this powerful Cyprianic system of protection. To complete your protection, according to Saint Cyprian's wisdom, recite this final consecration daily for at least 21 days after breaking the burial spell. "I am sealed in light, protected by Saint Cyprian's sight. No earth may hold me, no ritual bind me, no darkness claim me. My spirit is sovereign, my energy intact. What was broken is now whole." Remember that your strongest protection comes from maintaining spiritual awareness and positive energy. Stay connected to light, to nature, and to your inner wisdom. The power to break these spells lies within you. Saint Cyprian merely provides the ancient knowledge to activate your own spiritual strength. In closing, may Saint Cyprian's protection surround you always.